So do you have a relationship in mind that you want to speak to?
Look, I've got a current relationship which is going superbly, but I do have a few failed relationships as well that are worth mentioning, because I think any relationship is going to be a reflection on what's going on for me. So depending on what the topic is, I might draw.
Yeah, well, in your failed relationships, let's speak to those. Let's finish with the bang, which is the relationship that's working. And in the failed relationships, like, why do you think they failed?
I'm thinking of one in particular, and it's an unwillingness of one or both parties to grow past their, ego outrage.
Yeah.
And one in, and the marriage is just an acceptance of what is. It's like, this person's not going to change. This is not a direction I want to go in. Let it go.
And how long would you say that you were in that state of like, hey, this isn't working?
Or the marriage, it was probably nearly 10 years. If there were kids involved, and there was that determination to not fail. Like to admit that I was wrong. That's a tough one. So I think in all of the relationships that failed, that they hung around long after that awareness was there that meant this is not going well, but to action the severance was that, that final straw that cut it loose.
Yeah, what is that? What is that final thing that because I hear you knew, but then there's this thing.
Yeah. The impetus to say no, fuck you, I think is within me. The people pleaser, wanting to be liked, wanting to always try and make it right, so yeah, all of those cases, like, just wanting to fix things because being liked is much more comfortable than being misinterpreted or because obviously I'm awesome, but if the other person can't see that, well,
And you are awesome, and in that awesomeness, like the moments where you wanted to speak to the dynamics of the relationship and what you wanted to change or transform, like how was that landing on your partner at that time?
It doesn't. That's why also I think, that's the case of not necessarily romantic relationship, but some of the female relationships, friendships I've had that disintegrate is because I know that we're not speaking the same language. And at some point, you've got to just say, we're not speaking the same language. And it doesn't matter what I say, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Let it go. Because
Right.
I've found, relationships are the best mirrors. And when you're looking in the mirror and you see something you're not willing to accept in yourself, you can't possibly accept it in another person. So that relationship in particular that I'm thinking of is definitely a case of neither one of us able to get over ourselves and go, really shit.
So if you were like, which you are, but if you were like the ultra witch, the ultra creator, what would you want to transform? What would be the magic pill? What would be the magic wand that you would use to like transform that relationship dynamic?
It would be the ability to be completely humble and admit fault, and not, I've been wrestling with the whole boundary thing, and I've found setting boundaries to be a very big ego trap. I don't want to be treated this way, and it's all about getting offended or, having something bruised within yourself. Whereas, we're all people, we're all trying to do our best, and if I can't see that in another person, it's because I'm holding on to self-righteous indignation and all those. No, I need to be right here.
How have you moved through like that self-righteousness, indignation? Because that's a huge thing in relationship. Like, I want to be right, self-righteousness. Like, how have you? What tools have you used to like peel that away?
I found confession to be most useful, is to grovel and confess and give that vulnerability. Once you give that vulnerability, then there's a doorway or an olive branch for that forgiveness or that communication. And that's a lot of the time, that's what people want to see. They want to see your suffering. They want to see that they have the power to make you suffer, right? And if you're processing everything internally, you're cold-hearted and you don't feel anything, and they're not sharing in their effect on you. So what's the point? You know, I mean, my ultimate relationship at the moment is with a Vulcan. He virtually, you know, you could say he doesn't feel anything. He doesn't show anything that hasn't been pre-calculated or preordained. And when they do, it's often messy and leaks out, and it can be catastrophic. But
And what's that been like for you? Like, what's that been like navigating that dynamic? Because you're very, I find you quite emotional, Nick. Like, really, like you've got a big heart and you love to share what's going on for you. So, what's it like to be in a dynamic like that?
I've had to really put a brakes on my reactivity, and take a lot of ownership of my emotional state. You know, in the sense it's a big extension of you know, when you're arguing with someone and you change, you did this and you did that, you've got to change it to I feel, I feel, I feel. It's a real actioning of that. Not only are you, yeah, just owning your own shit, owning your part in whatever, I don't want to say miscommunication or whatever unrest is happening, discomfort that's happening at the time. So it's all about, for me, jiggling and jostling away from discomfort.
Mm.
You know, if I'm empowered enough to face the discomfort and push through it, 100% of the time, it's beneficial. And so I use tools like you and any other venting type things, or even just go somewhere where I know I'm appreciated, to get a little bit of a boost to punch through the discomfort.
Great. The Nicole in the Nicole in 5 years' time from now, in the future, what would she tell Nicole today?
Look, I can only extrapolate from this Nicole now what I would have told Nicole 10 years ago.
Great, do that.
Which is, you're a lot better than you think you are. You know, don't be so hard on yourself. So I think, yeah, future Nicole probably say something like that.
Beautiful.
Nice.
That don't be so hard on yourself, Nicole. When you're not so hard on yourself, like, how does that impact the rest of your life?
It creates space to be those reactive emotions that are coming out, and to accept them as part of the process and forgive the imperfection, because being imperfect is what being human's about, you know.
Beautiful.
So fuck.
That's great. That's great. This is great. So, yeah. Nick, if you had a megaphone to speak to the entire planet and tell them one thing or one sentence, what is it that you want to communicate?
We're all doing our best. You know, cut some slack. We're doing our best with what we've got at the time and how we've been shaped at the time. You know, so yeah, you might be a crazed Nazi or da 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 da, but there's always a story behind that. Yeah, so you know, give people credit. No one wants to be an asshole. No, not often. When people are being an asshole, they don't realize they're being an asshole. Yeah, and I'm back to that wrestling with boundaries and being a doormat and all those, like, I want to say egoic protections that are there for a reason, but they're also stultifying. That they can, you know, freeze you in place. Yeah, the uncomfortable feelings are ultimately what you should be chasing.
Mm.
You know, I'm not saying go
And-
up with someone you're not attracted to, but why aren't you attracted to them? Why aren't you in love with everybody?
Mm.
Because you're fucked in some way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
why can't you just love everyone? Why can't you just love everyone? What's the resistance? What's there? What's behind all of that?
yeah, and yeah, what makes one person more compatible than the other? They're enabling. The fact that they're willing to enable you to be a dickhead. I found that to be a big one. You know, people that like me go straight to the top of the list, whereas people who aren't sure about me, they're scary, and they come with defenses. So yeah, the people that I feel closest to are the people that I know in advance will forgive me for being a dickhead.
Nice.
To understand
And
that the best intentions often fall short.
well, it takes effort to love someone, right? To love
Yeah,
them,
straight
all of
away.
their messiness. It takes effort, and you've got to really devote like an open heart to. Okay, cool. I want this person to be in my life, and I can speak to the truth, and I can love them for who they are. Like it's just like that's what I want.
Yeah, I think there's conscious choice in there to put in that effort as well. You know, and you try and I try to avoid weighing up. Well, does this relationship add to my life, or does it detract? And you can categorize your people. Like, I know some people I know color code their people.
Yeah, right.
This person takes a lot of spoons to put up with, but the pluses have hidden benefits. Yeah.
So, in the
And
relationship that you're in now, what is it that
mm,
you want to celebrate about the relationship that you're in now?
the adulting.
Adulting.
Yeah, yeah. And the fact that we stand out. He certainly stands his ground. Like he doesn't expect me to compromise myself, and he won't compromise himself. So we stand in our own space, in our own thing, and we come and meet as a adult. And it's really hard, and it's really tiring. It's an exhausting type relationship, but ultimately it's fulfilling because I'm constantly being pushed back into myself. Don't Yeah. And there's a little bit of argy bargy in terms of that guest culture, ask culture mismatch, and we both facilitate. Sometimes we're guest culture, sometimes we're ask culture. So that's particularly something I'm training him to do, is communicate and ask. I'm not going to volunteer to do something I don't want to do. But if you need me to do something I don't want to do, ask, and I'm more than happy to make that sacrifice, or make that concession. But I'm not going to put it forward. I'm not going to do anything with your preferences in mind. I'm going to go from my heart and do what I want to do, unless you've asked me otherwise.
Has that been a journey to get to that place?
Fuck yeah, yeah, and it really it was springboarded by the decision to end the marriage. It's like, no, I'm going to do something for me, and I had to wrestle with a lot of feelings of like, yeah, you're being selfish, and yeah, I am being selfish, because ultimately, it's not. It's narcissism from the highest good kind of. Yeah, I have to be more myself so I can fit in with the community better. I have to be more myself so that I can act authentically in a communal situation. And a lot of that is missing, I think, in the finger pointing of people, like the culture of the individual that we're all immersed in now. It's like, yeah, we're all immersed in the self-help so that we can be better social beings. Not so that we can get more stuff for ourselves and get ahead for ourselves and da da da, but so that we can know where we can give and give properly. Look at that.
That's perfect, Nick. Yeah, that sentence is golden. Thank you.
You're
I've got nothing else to ask you. Is there anything else that you want to share?
Yeah, no, not really. Other than just quietly, I've been upgraded from having a dom to having a master. Yeah. Fuck yeah, that makes me squirm. That's exhilarating because that's so confronting and wrong. It's so sick and wrong. It's hot.
I love it. Nick, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invitation. Always a pleasure.
You're welcome. Have an amazing night.
You too, doll. Anything you need, let me know.